I should have known something was wrong the moment she offered to make breakfast. My daughter-in-law, Elena, didn't cook, not for me anyway. In the 3 years since she married my son Jake, I could count on one hand the number of times she'd prepared anything more complicated than toast in my presence. She had her reasons, I suppose. I wasn't the easiest person to be around. I asked too many questions. I noticed too much. I had opinions about things that weren't my business, like why Jake looked so tired all the time, or why their apartment always seemed to smell like bleach and anxiety. But that Tuesday morning in April, she was standing in my kitchen at 6:15, wearing yoga pants and one of Jake's old hospital shirts, pulling ingredients out of my refrigerator like she owned the place. "Morning, Paul," she said without turning around. "I thought I'd make Jake something special. He's been working doubles all week." I stood in the doorway, still in my undershirt and work pants, barefoot on the cold linoleum. My coffee maker was already gurgling, which meant she'd been here long enough to figure out where I kept the filters. "You have a key now?" I asked. Jake gave me his spare. She smiled over her shoulder. "Hope that's okay." It wasn't okay. Jake's spare key was supposed to be for emergencies. But I didn't say anything. I just watched her move around my kitchen with the confidence of someone who'd planned this, who'd thought about the timing and the presentation and exactly how she wanted this moment to unfold. She'd brought her own containers. 3 of them, stacked neatly by the sink. Clear plastic, the expensive kind with the locking lids and the little vents on top. Professional grade. The kind you'd use for meal prep or catering, not for making your husband breakfast. "What are you making?" I asked. "Egg bake, spinach, mushrooms, a little bit of that fancy cheese you like, and some turkey sausage. I know Jake's been trying to eat healthier." She pulled a glass baking dish from the oven, the edges golden and bubbling. "I made enough for you too, if you want some." The smell was perfect, savory and rich, with just a hint of garlic. My stomach rumbled despite myself. "I usually just have coffee," I said. "I know, but today's special." She started dividing the egg bake into portions, working with the precision of someone who'd done this before. "Jake's been so stressed lately. I thought if he had a good meal waiting for him after his shift, it might help." "He gets off at 7, I said. "Why not take it to him yourself?" "I have a meeting at 8, client presentation. But you're going to the hospital anyway, right? For your shift?" I worked facilities management for the hospital network. Maintenance, logistics, supply chain coordination. I wasn't important enough to have an office, but I was important enough that people left me alone. I knew every corridor, every storage room, every place where the cameras didn't quite reach. I knew which doors locked from the inside and which ones didn't. I knew the schedules, the rotations, the gaps in coverage. I also knew that Elena knew all of this about me. "I could take it," I said carefully. "Perfect." She snapped the lid onto the first container. "I made sure to pack it in something that'll keep it warm. Just give it to him when you see him. Tell him I love him." She kissed my cheek on her way out. Her perfume was something floral and expensive, the kind that lingered long after she'd gone. I stood in my kitchen, staring at the 3 containers lined up on my counter, and tried to figure out what felt wrong. It wasn't the breakfast. The breakfast looked fine. It wasn't the containers, though they were oddly specific. It was the timing, the precision, the way she'd measured everything, portioned everything, sealed everything, like she was preparing evidence, not food. I picked up the first container. Still warm. I could see the layers, the way the eggs had set around the vegetables, the little pockets of melted cheese. It looked homemade. It looked safe. I opened the lid and smelled it. Nothing unusual. Just food. I put the lid back on and checked my watch. 6:40. Jake would be finishing up his shift soon, probably already counting down the minutes until he could go home and collapse. Not slowly either. I could see it in his face, in the way his shoulders slumped when he thought no one was looking, in the way he'd started drinking energy drinks like water. Elena said it was temporary, just until he got enough experience to move to a better position, just until they saved enough money for a house, just until things settled down. But things never settled down. They just got more complicated. I grabbed my keys and my jacket and the 3 containers, stacking them carefully in an insulated bag I kept for grocery runs. I didn't trust myself to carry them loose. My hands weren't as steady as they used to be, and the last thing I needed was to drop Elena's special breakfast all over the parking lot. The drive to the hospital took 20 minutes. I knew every traffic light, every shortcut, every place where the cops like to sit with their radar guns. I could have done it in my sleep. Sometimes I felt like I did. The staff parking lot was mostly empty at 7 in the morning. The night shift was wrapping up, and the day shift hadn't started yet. That in-between time when the hospital felt almost peaceful before the chaos of visiting hours and scheduled surgeries and whatever fresh disasters the day would bring. I badged in through the service entrance, the one that led straight to the basement corridors where the maintenance offices were. The air down here always smelled like floor cleaner and old pipes, but it was quiet. No patients, no families. Just the hum of the HVAC system and the occasional rattle of a laundry cart. I took the service elevator up to the 3rd floor, where the ER was. I could have taken the main elevators, but I didn't like running into people. Too many questions, too many conversations I didn't want to have. The doors opened onto a hallway I'd walked 1,000 times. Institutional white walls, scuffed linoleum, fluorescent lights that buzzed if you listened hard enough. There was a nurse's station at the end of the hall, and beyond that, the organized chaos of the emergency department. He looked exhausted. More than exhausted. He looked defeated. I knocked on the door frame. He looked up, and for a second I saw something in his face that I didn't recognize. Not happiness, not relief, something else. Something that looked almost like fear. Then he smiled, and it was gone. Dad. Hey, what are you doing here? Delivery service. I held up the bag. Elena made you breakfast. His smile faltered. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to notice. She did? Said you've been working hard. Thought you deserved something special. I set the bag on the table and started unpacking the containers. She made enough for 3 people, apparently. You got friends you want to share with? No, I'll just take it home. Save it for later. He didn't reach for the food. He just stared at it, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You okay? I asked. Yeah, just tired. Long shift. Bad night? They're all bad lately. He rubbed his eyes. We had a car accident come in around 3, family of 4. Mom didn't make it. I had to tell the dad while his kids were screaming in the next room. Jesus. Yeah. He finally opened one of the containers. The smell filled the room, warm and comforting. This looks good, though. Tell Elena thanks. Tell her yourself. I will. He picked up a plastic fork from the dispenser on the counter and stabbed at the egg bake. He took a bite, chewed, swallowed. It's good. You should eat more than that. I will. I just need to finish up some charting first. Then I'll head home. You want me to wait? No, it's fine. I'll be a while. You should get to work. I should have left then. I should have taken my empty bag and gone back down to the basement and started my own shift and forgotten about the whole thing. But something kept me there, watching my son push food around in a container like he was looking for something hidden underneath. Jake, I said, is everything okay with you and Elena? Yeah, why? I don't know. This morning felt off. Off how? She's never made me breakfast before. Never been in my apartment that early. It just seemed like she was trying pretty hard to make sure I'd bring this to you. Maybe she was just being nice. Maybe. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that I'd been seeing for months but hadn't wanted to acknowledge. He looked trapped, like a man who'd made a series of small compromises that had somehow added up to something he couldn't escape. Dad, he said quietly, I'm fine. Elena's fine. We're all fine. You worry too much. That's my job. I know, but you don't have to. I'm an adult. I can take care of myself. I know you can. Then trust me. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But trust is a funny thing. It's not about what you want to believe. It's about what you can't ignore. I left him there with his breakfast and his exhaustion and whatever else he was carrying that he wouldn't tell me about. I took the elevator back down to the basement and walked to my office, a converted storage room with a desk and a filing cabinet and a space heater that barely worked. I had work to do, supply orders to process, maintenance requests to approve, a scheduling conflict to resolve between 2 crews who both wanted the same time slot to work on the same boiler. Normal stuff. The kind of stuff that kept the hospital running but that nobody ever thought about. I tried to focus, I really did, but I couldn't stop thinking about Elena's breakfast. About the containers. About the way Jake had looked at that food like it was a test he wasn't sure he wanted to pass. I was filling out a requisition form when I heard the first alarm. It was distant, muffled by the walls and the distance, but I knew that sound. Code blue, cardiac arrest. All hands on deck. I didn't think much of it. Code blues happened all the time in a hospital. People's hearts stopped. Sometimes they started again, sometimes they didn't. It was tragic and routine in equal measure. Then I heard the second alarm, and the third, and then I heard something I'd never heard before in 15 years of working in this hospital. I heard someone scream. Not a patient, not a family member getting bad news, a nurse. One of the charge nurses, I thought. Her voice was raw and panicked and utterly terrified. I was moving before I realized I'd stood up. Out of my office, down the corridor, up the stairs because the elevator would be too slow. My badge got me through the secure doors, past the labs, past the imaging center, straight to the ER. The hallway was chaos, doctors running, nurses shouting, a crash cart being wheeled at full speed toward one of the trauma bays. And in the middle of it all, I saw the charge nurse, Patricia, standing frozen outside the break room with her hands over her mouth. I pushed past her. The first thing I saw was the container on the floor. Elena's container, the one I'd brought, split open and spilling its contents across the linoleum. The egg bake looked wrong now, the colors too bright, the smell too sharp. The second thing I saw was my son. Jake was on the ground, convulsing. His eyes were rolled back, white and empty. Foam was coming out of his mouth. His hands were clenched into fists so tight I could see the bones. Someone was already doing chest compressions. Someone else was trying to get an IV line in. Someone was yelling about naloxone and activated charcoal, and what the hell did he take? Patricia grabbed my arm. Paul, you need to leave. You can't be here. That's my son. I know, but you still can't be here. Let them work. I brought him that food. I brought him that container. Her grip tightened. What? That container. The one on the floor. I brought it from home. Elena made it. She asked me to bring it. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. She pulled me out of the room, out of the hallway, into an empty office with no windows and a door that locked. She sat me down in a chair and stood in front of me with her arms crossed. Tell me exactly what happened, she said. So I did. I told her about Elena showing up at my apartment, about the breakfast and the containers and the way she'd been so specific about everything, about how Jake had barely eaten any of it before I left, about how none of it had felt right. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Paul, she said finally, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Did you know what was in that food? No. Did you prepare it? Did you add anything to it? No. I just brought it. That's all. Elena made it, and I brought it, and I gave it to Jake. That's all I did. She studied my face like she was trying to read something written in a language she didn't quite understand. Okay, she said. Okay. Stay here. Don't leave this room. Don't talk to anyone. I need to make some calls. She left me there, alone in the dark office, with nothing but the sound of my own heartbeat and the screaming that wouldn't stop echoing in my head. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my legs to go numb, long enough for the adrenaline to drain out of my system and leave me hollow. When Patricia finally came back, she had someone with me, a man in a suit. Hospital security, I thought. Or maybe something worse. Mr. Brennan, the man said. I'm Detective Holland. I need to ask you some questions about what happened this morning. They didn't arrest me. That came as a surprise. Detective Holland sat across from me in that windowless office for 2 hours, asking the same questions in slightly different ways, trying to catch me in a contradiction that never came because I was telling the truth. I brought my son poisoned food. I didn't know it was poisoned. His wife made it. She asked me to deliver it. That was the whole story. Except it wasn't, was it? Because Jake was still alive. Barely. He was in the ICU now, unconscious, on a ventilator, his brain swelling inside his skull while doctors tried to figure out what he'd ingested that had hit him so fast and so hard. Holland wanted to know about my relationship with Elena, whether we fought, whether I approved of the marriage, whether I had any reason to want my son's wife out of the picture. She's ambitious, I told him. Smart. Pretty. She has Jake wrapped around her finger. I don't know if I like her, but I don't have to. He picked her. You sound bitter. I sound realistic. My son is a good man. A little naive, maybe. A little too trusting, but good. And his wife? She's good at being what people need her to be. Holland wrote that down. What does that mean? It means she knows how to play people. She knew I'd bring that food to Jake. She knew I wouldn't question it. She knew exactly what would happen. That got his attention. He looked up from his notebook, and I saw the calculation happening behind his eyes. The reassessment. The shift from treating me like a suspect to treating me like something more complicated. Explain, he said. The breakfast was supposed to be for Jake, but she made 3 portions. 3. Why 3? I thought it was so he could share or save leftovers. But what if it wasn't? What if one of those portions was meant for me? You didn't eat any? No, but she didn't know that. She couldn't have known Jake would barely touch it either. He took 1 bite and then said he'd save it for later. That's speculation. So is everything else. Holland closed his notebook. We're running toxicology on what's left of the food and on your son. It'll take a few days to get results. In the meantime, we'll be talking to Elena. Good luck with that. You don't think she'll cooperate? I think she'll cry at all the right moments and say all the right things, and you'll walk away thinking you just interviewed a grieving wife who can't understand how this terrible accident happened. You're very cynical, Mr. Brennan. I'm very experienced. He left after that, taking the containers with him as evidence. Patricia came back in and told me I needed to go home. The hospital was going into crisis mode, internal review, incident reports, lawyers circling like sharks. And Jake was in no condition to have visitors, even family. Especially family, apparently. Because family was who'd brought the poison through the door. I went home. I sat in my apartment and stared at the spot where Elena had stood in my kitchen, making breakfast with someone else's ingredients and someone else's intentions. I tried to remember every detail, every word, every gesture, anything that might explain how I'd missed what was right in front of me. My phone rang at 3 p.m. Unknown number. Mr. Brennan? A woman's voice, professional and cold. This is Anne from St. Catherine's Hospital Administration. We need to discuss your employment status. My employment status? Given the incident this morning and your involvement, the hospital feels it would be best if you took some leave while the investigation is ongoing. Paid leave, of course. We're not suggesting any wrongdoing on your part, just a precaution. A precaution. We'll need your badge and your keys. Someone will come by to collect them this evening. I've been working here for 15 years. We understand this is difficult, but we have protocols. I'm sure you understand. I understood perfectly. I was being erased. Quietly, professionally, with all the right corporate language to make it sound like they were doing me a favor. By the end of the week, there would be a new facilities supervisor. By the end of the month, most people wouldn't remember my name. I gave them my badge and my keys that evening. A nervous HR rep collected them at my door, apologized 3 times, and hurried away like I might be contagious. Elena called at 7. Paul. Her voice was thick with tears, or something that sounded like tears. Oh my God, Paul. They told me what happened. Is Jake okay? They won't let me see him. They're saying things, terrible things. I don't understand. Where are you? At home. The police were here. They took samples of everything in our kitchen. They're treating me like I'm a criminal, like I would ever hurt Jake. Paul, you have to tell them. Tell them it was an accident. Tell them I would never. What was in the food, Elena? Silence, long enough that I thought she might have hung up. I don't know what you mean. The breakfast you made. What did you put in it? Just what I said. Eggs, vegetables, cheese, normal food. I don't understand what happened. Maybe something was contaminated. Maybe the eggs were bad. I don't know, Paul. I don't know. You used your own containers. I always do. I'm particular about that stuff. Professional grade. Expensive. I do meal prep for my clients sometimes. It's part of my business. What business? Wellness consulting. I thought you knew that. I didn't. Jake had told me Elena worked in marketing, something vague with flexible hours. Wellness consulting was new. What does that involve? I asked. Helping people optimize their health, diet, exercise, supplements, that kind of thing. Supplements. Vitamins, minerals, herbal remedies, all legal, all safe. Paul, what are you trying to say? I'm trying to understand why you made breakfast in my kitchen at 6 a.m. and handed it to me in sealed containers and told me exactly when to deliver it. Because I wanted to do something nice for my husband. That's not a crime. No, but poisoning him is. I didn't poison anyone. Her voice cracked, raw and desperate. Jesus Christ, Paul. This is insane. I'm his wife. I love him. Why would I hurt him? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. I hung up. She called back immediately. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times over the next hour. I blocked her number. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I tried to think about something else, I ended up back in my kitchen, watching Elena measure and portion and seal everything with the precision of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. The next morning, I went to the hospital. They wouldn't let me see Jake, but they couldn't stop me from sitting in the waiting room outside the ICU. Patricia found me around noon. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. They'll call security if you don't leave. Let them. She sat down next to me. She looked tired. We all looked tired. How is he? I asked. Stable. Still unconscious. Still critical, but stable. What did they find? I can't tell you that. HIPAA. He's my son. I know, but you're also under investigation. I'm sorry, Paul. I really am. Patricia. I turned to look at her. You've worked here, what, 20 years? 23. You know me. You know I didn't do this. I believe you. Then help me. She was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The food wasn't poisoned. I stared at her. What? Tox screen came back this morning. The food was clean. Whatever hit Jake, it wasn't something you brought him. That doesn't make any sense. He ate the food and then collapsed. The timing... I know. But the food was clean. So either he ingested something else around the same time, or what? Or someone wanted it to look like the food was the problem. The room tilted sideways. I gripped the edge of my chair. Why? I asked. Why would someone do that? I don't know, but I've been thinking about it, and Paul, the only person who benefits from that kind of setup is someone who wants you to look guilty. Elena. Maybe, or someone else, I don't know. But you need to be careful. Because if the food wasn't the problem, then someone went to a lot of trouble to make it look like it was. And that means they're not done yet. She stood up. I have to go. Please, Paul, go home. Stay away from here. Let the police do their job. The police think I'm guilty. Then prove them wrong. But do it smart. Do it careful. Don't give them any more reasons to come after you. She left me there, alone with a truth that didn't make sense and 1,000 questions I couldn't answer. If the food wasn't poisoned, what happened to Jake? And if someone was trying to frame me, what was I supposed to have done with the real poison? I stood up. My legs were stiff from sitting too long. My head hurt. My hands were shaking. I needed answers. And I knew exactly where to start looking. I went home and started digging through everything I knew about Elena. Everything Jake had ever told me. Everything I'd observed. Every little detail I'd dismissed as unimportant. She was from Chicago, originally. She'd moved here 5 years ago for work. She'd met Jake at a hospital fundraiser. They'd dated for 8 months before getting married in a small ceremony at the courthouse. No family present. I'd thought it was suspicious, but I'd kept that to myself. She worked from home mostly. Wellness consulting, she'd said. But when I searched for her business online, I couldn't find anything. No website, no social media presence, no reviews or testimonials or any evidence that she was actually running a business at all. I did find one thing, though. A news article from 3 years ago about a personal trainer in Chicago who'd been investigated for selling unregulated supplements to clients. The trainer's name was different, but the photo looked like Elena. Younger, different hair, but the same face, the same smile. The investigation had been dropped. Insufficient evidence. The trainer had moved away shortly after. No forwarding address. I printed the article and stared at it for a long time. Then my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. We need to talk. Meet me at Palmer Park, East Entrance, 8 p.m. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. This is about Jake. No name, no explanation. I should have ignored it. I should have called the police. I should have done literally anything other than what I actually did. But I didn't, because whoever sent that message knew something, and I needed to know it too. The email address from the flash drive was generic. A Gmail account. No identifying information, nothing that traced back to a real person or company. But emails leave traces. Server logs, IP addresses, metadata. I just needed to know where to look. I'm not a hacker. I've never been a hacker. But I know people who know people. And in a hospital network that spans 3 facilities and employs 4,000 people, you meet a lot of IT professionals who owe you favors. I called Dennis Ortiz at midnight. He was one of the senior network administrators, a guy I'd helped out a few times when facilities issues overlapped with server room problems. We weren't friends exactly, but we had the kind of working relationship where you could ask for help without too many questions. He answered on the 4th ring, groggy and annoyed. This better be an emergency, Paul. It is. I need you to trace an email address. There was a long pause. Are you serious? Completely. Do you know what time it is? I know, I'm sorry, but this is about Jake. Another pause, longer this time. Dennis had met Jake a few times. Hospital Christmas parties, company picnics. He knew Jake was a good kid. What happened to Jake? Dennis asked. Someone poisoned him, or tried to. And I think the person who did it has been communicating through this email address. I need to know who owns it. Paul, I can't just hack into someone's email. That's illegal, and I'd lose my job. I'm not asking you to hack anything. I just need you to trace where the emails came from. Server logs, IP addresses, anything that might tell me who's on the other end. That's still technically. Dennis, please. My son is in a coma. The police think I did it, and the person who actually did it is walking free. I need help. He sighed. Send me the address. I'll see what I can find, but I'm not promising anything. Thank you. And Paul? If this blows back on me, we never had this conversation. Understood. I sent him the email address and waited. While I waited, I went through the rest of the flash drive looking for anything I might have missed. There was one file I'd skipped earlier, a PDF labeled Consent Forms. I opened it. The forms were standard liability waivers, the kind you'd sign before participating in any medical study. But these weren't official hospital forms. They were custom documents printed on plain paper with no institutional logos or IRB approval numbers. Each form had been signed by one of the wellness program participants. Jake's signature was at the bottom of the third page. The language was dense, full of legal jargon, but the gist was clear. Participants acknowledged that they were taking experimental supplements, that results were not guaranteed, that adverse reactions were possible, and that they waived all rights to sue the program administrator or any affiliated parties for damages resulting from their participation. At the bottom of each form, in tiny print, was a clause that caught my eye. Participant agrees that all medical records, performance data, and personal information collected during the study may be used for research purposes and may be shared with third parties at the discretion of the program administrator. Participant waives all privacy rights related to this data. Elena had gotten Jake to sign away his right to privacy. She could share his medical information with anyone she wanted, and he couldn't stop her. I thought about what Trevor had said, about pharmaceutical companies, about real-world data, about someone paying Elena to test supplements on hospital staff. What if it wasn't just about testing the supplements? What if it was about collecting data that could be used to market them? What if Jake's performance improvements, his increased work capacity, his documented results were all part of a sales pitch? And what if Jake's collapse was a problem that needed to be solved before anyone could connect his decline to the supplements he'd been taking? My phone buzzed. Text from Dennis. Found something. Not good. Call me. I called him immediately. What did you find? The email address is registered to a shell company, Health First Consulting LLC. Registered in Delaware, no physical address, no public records. But I traced the IP addresses from the emails. Most of them came from a commercial building downtown. Office space, rented to a firm called Apex Wellness Solutions. Never heard of them. Neither had I, so I did some digging. Apex Wellness Solutions is a subsidiary of a larger company called Biogen Therapeutics. And Biogen? They're a major player in the supplement industry, over $200 million in annual revenue. They manufacture nootropics, adaptogens, performance enhancers, all the stuff Elena was giving to Jake. So Elena was working for Biogen. Not officially. According to her LinkedIn, she's an independent consultant. But according to the financial records I definitely didn't access illegally, she's been receiving quarterly payments from Biogen for the past 2 years. $50,000 per quarter. $200,000 a year. Jesus. Paul, this is big. If Biogen was using hospital staff as test subjects without proper oversight, without IRB approval, that's a massive liability. We're talking lawsuits, regulatory investigations, criminal charges. They'd do anything to keep this quiet. Including framing someone for attempted murder. Including that. Paul, you need to take this to the authorities. Now. Before someone decides you know too much. I can't. Not yet. I need more proof. I need something that directly connects Biogen to what happened to Jake. What you need is to stay alive. These people have money and lawyers and a lot to lose. You're a facilities supervisor with a grudge. Who do you think wins that fight? I don't care about winning. I care about the truth. I'm not going to die, Dennis. Famous last words, Paul. Famous last words. He hung up. I sat there in the dark, holding my phone, thinking about pharmaceutical companies and shell corporations and the kind of money that makes people do terrible things. Elena had been paid $200,000 a year to run an illegal study. Jake had been one of her test subjects. When he became a liability, she'd tried to eliminate him in a way that protected Biogen's interests, and now she was trying to make sure I took the fall for it. But there was still something missing, something I couldn't quite see. If Elena just wanted Jake out of the study, she could have ended his participation quietly. Stopped the supplements, stopped the payments, moved on to the next subject? Why go to the trouble of contaminating the breakfast? Why create a medical emergency? Why expose him? Unless exposure was the point? I pulled up the emails again, reading them more carefully this time. Ensure participant cannot connect protocol to external funding source. That was the key phrase. Elena needed to make sure that if Jake ever realized what had been done to him, he couldn't trace it back to Biogen. She needed to create a narrative where his collapse was his own fault, the result of his own poor choices. Completely disconnected from the wellness program, it was meant to expose his drug use, to make it look like he'd overdosed on stolen medications, to create a paper trail that led away from Elena and Biogen and toward Jake's own reckless behavior. And it had almost worked. The only problem was me. I'd brought the breakfast, I'd delivered it, I'd been the mechanism, and now I was a loose end that needed to be tied off. But how? What was Elena's plan for dealing with me? My phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. Mr. Brennan, we need to meet. Tonight. It's about Elena, and it's urgent. I stared at the message. Another mysterious contact. Another promise of information. Who is this? I typed. A friend. Someone who knows what Elena is planning next. Someone who can help you stop it. Why should I trust you? Because if you don't, you'll be arrested by morning. Elena is filing a restraining order against you. She's claiming you've been harassing her, threatening her, breaking into her home. She has evidence, manufactured evidence, but the police won't know that. They'll arrest you, and once you're in custody, you won't be able to fight back. Where do you want to meet? The hospital, basement level, near the old laundry facility. Midnight. Come alone. I checked the time. 11:15. This was a trap. It had to be a trap. No one offers to help you in the middle of the night in a deserted part of a hospital unless they're planning something bad. But what choice did I have? If Elena really was filing a restraining order, I was out of time. I needed to act now, before I lost the ability to act at all. I grabbed my jacket and my keys and headed for the hospital. The drive felt longer than usual, every red light an eternity, every other car a potential threat. I kept checking my rearview mirror, looking for signs that I was being followed. I didn't see anything, but that didn't mean no one was there. I parked in the visitor's lot and walked to the service entrance. My badge didn't work anymore, but the door lock was old and cheap, the kind you could pop with a credit card if you knew what you were doing. I was inside in under a minute. The basement corridors were exactly as I remembered them. Narrow, dimly lit, lined with exposed pipes and electrical conduits. The kind of place where things got stored and forgotten, where maintenance happened out of sight of patients and visitors. The old laundry facility was at the far end of the east wing, a large room that hadn't been used in years. The hospital had outsourced laundry services a decade ago, and the old equipment had been left in place. Too expensive to remove, too bulky to repurpose. I approached slowly, listening for sounds of movement. Nothing. Just the ambient hum of the building's mechanical systems. The door to the laundry facility was ajar. A sliver of light spilled out into the corridor. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was bigger than I remembered, filled with industrial washing machines and dryers, all of them dark and silent. In the center of the room, under a single flickering fluorescent light, stood a woman I didn't recognize. She was in her 40s, maybe, with short graying hair and the kind of professional wardrobe that said lawyer or executive. She was holding a folder and looking at me with an expression that was hard to read. "Mr. Brennan," she said. "Thank you for coming. Who are you?" "My name is Dr. Rachel Kim. I'm the Director of Research Compliance for Biogen Therapeutics, and I'm here to offer you a deal." I didn't move, didn't step closer, didn't let my guard down for a second. "A deal," I said. "A resolution. A way out of this situation that benefits everyone involved." "Everyone except my son, you mean?" Dr. Kim's expression didn't change. "Your son made choices, Mr. Brennan. Choices that put him at risk. Choices that violated hospital policy and federal law. We didn't force him to steal medications. We didn't force him to participate in the wellness program. He did those things voluntarily. After you manipulated him into a position where he felt like he had no other options. We provided an opportunity. He took it. That's not manipulation. That's capitalism. It's experimentation without informed consent." He signed the consent forms. Forms that didn't disclose who was funding the study or what the real purpose was. The forms disclosed everything required by law, which is very little in the case of dietary supplements. We operate in a gray area, Mr. Brennan. It's not illegal, it's just unethical by certain standards. And you're fine with that. I'm pragmatic. The supplement industry is worth billions of dollars. There's enormous demand for products that improve performance, reduce stress, enhance cognitive function. But there's very little real-world data on how these products perform under actual working conditions. We were conducting research that will help millions of people make better choices about their health. By destroying my son. Your son destroyed himself. We just documented the process. I wanted to hit her. I wanted to grab her by the throat and squeeze until she admitted what she'd really done, but I didn't. Because I needed to hear what she was going to offer. I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. "What's the deal?" I asked. We know you've been investigating Elena. We know you have files from the wellness program. We know you've been talking to people who shouldn't be talking to you. And we know that if you continue down this path, you're going to end up in prison for attempted murder. Elena is very convincing. She has evidence, she has testimony, she has a narrative that explains everything in a way that makes you look guilty. So, you're here to threaten me. I'm here to offer you an alternative. We can make this go away, all of it. The investigation, the charges, the media attention. We can ensure that the truth about the wellness program never comes to light. And in exchange, you walk away. You stop investigating. You stop talking. You let Jake recover in peace and move on with your life. And what happens to Elena? Elena will be taken care of. Quietly, professionally. She'll disappear from your life. You'll never have to see her again. What about Jake? Jake will recover. He'll receive the best possible care. And when he's well enough, we'll help him find a new position. Somewhere far from here. Somewhere he can start over without the shadow of this incident following him. You're offering to buy my silence. I'm offering you a chance to protect your son. Because if this goes public, Jake's career is over. He'll lose his license. He'll face criminal charges for drug theft. He'll be ruined. And you'll be right there beside him, facing your own charges, your own ruin. Is that what you want? I want justice. Justice is expensive, Mr. Brennan, and it rarely works out the way you think it will. The legal system is slow and complicated and heavily biased toward people with money and resources. We have both. You have neither. If you fight us, you will lose. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how much you'll lose. What's in the folder? She opened it and pulled out a document. This is a non-disclosure agreement. You sign it, you receive $500,000, and this situation ends. The investigation is dropped, the charges are dismissed, Elena disappears, and you and Jake get to move forward with your lives. $500,000, tax-free, deposited in an offshore account, completely untraceable. All you have to do is sign and walk away. I looked at the document. It was professionally drafted, dense with legal language, the kind of contract that would hold up in court, the kind of contract that would bind me forever. What if I don't sign? I asked. Then we proceed with Plan B. Elena files her restraining order. The police arrest you. The media gets wind of the story. By the end of the week, you're a national headline. Disgruntled father poisons son. Your life is over, and Jake's life is over, and nothing you do will change that. You're that confident you can frame me. We've done this before, Mr. Brennan. Not exactly this situation, but similar ones. Test subjects who become liabilities, or family members who ask too many questions. We have protocols, we have systems, we know how to manage problems. I'm a problem. You're a variable that needs to be controlled, preferably through cooperation, but if necessary, through other means. I took the document from her hands and pretended to read it. I wasn't reading. I was thinking, I was calculating, I was trying to figure out what move to make next. Because Dr. Kim was right about one thing. I couldn't win a legal fight against Biogen. I didn't have the money, the resources, the expertise. If I tried to take them on directly, I'd lose, and Jake would lose with me, but I didn't have to fight them legally. I just had to destroy them. I need time to think about this, I said. You have until morning. After that, the offer expires, and Plan B goes into effect. How do I contact you? She pulled a business card from her pocket. Call this number. Someone will answer. Give them your decision. I took the card. One more thing, I said. Where's Elena now? Somewhere safe. Somewhere you can't reach her. Somewhere she can't cause any more problems. We're going to ensure her continued cooperation. How we do that is not your concern. It is if she's the only witness who can corroborate what happened to Jake. There are other witnesses, medical records, toxicology reports, testimony from hospital staff. Elena is useful, but she's not irreplaceable. None of us are. She walked past me toward the door. I didn't try to stop her. Mr. Brennan, she said without turning around, make the right choice, for everyone's sake. Then she was gone, her footsteps echoing down the corridor, fading into nothing. I stood there in the empty laundry facility, holding a contract that would solve all my problems and destroy any chance of justice for my son. I thought about calling the police, telling them everything, showing them the files, the emails, the evidence of what Biogen had done. But what would they do? Biogen had money and lawyers and a story that made me look guilty. They'd spin the evidence, discredit the sources, drag out the investigation until everyone lost interest. And in the meantime, Jake would be caught in the middle, his reputation destroyed, his career finished. I thought about signing the contract, taking the money, walking away, letting Jake recover in peace and pretending none of this had ever happened. But I couldn't, because Elena was still out there. Dr. Kim was still out there. Biogen was still out there. And if I did nothing, they'd do this to someone else. Another test subject, another family, another life destroyed in the name of profit and research. I needed a different approach, something that didn't rely on the legal system, something that hit Biogen where it hurt. I needed to expose them publicly, not through the courts, through the media. I left the hospital and drove home, already planning my next move. I knew a journalist, Rebecca Tran, who specialized in investigative reporting on healthcare fraud. We'd met a few years ago when she was researching a story about hospital waste management. She was aggressive, thorough, and completely uninterested in corporate spin. I called her at 1 in the morning. She answered on the second ring, wide awake. "Paul Brennan, it's been a while. I have a story for you. Big one. Pharmaceutical company conducting illegal human experiments on hospital staff. Cover-ups, threats, attempted murder, the whole thing." There was a pause. Then, "Tell me more." I told her everything. The wellness program, the supplements, the payments, Elena, Biogen, Dr. Kim's offer. All of it. When I finished, Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. "This is huge," she said finally. "But I need proof. Documents, emails, testimony. Can you provide that?" "I have files, lots of files. Everything from the wellness program, but I need you to move fast. Biogen is trying to shut this down. If we wait too long, they'll destroy the evidence and bury me." "How fast?" 48 hours. Can you do it?" "I can try. Send me everything you have. And Paul, be careful. Companies like Biogen don't play nice when they're cornered." "I know." I hung up and started compiling files. Everything from Trevor's flash drive. Everything Dennis had found. Everything I'd photographed in Jake's apartment. I organized it into folders, wrote a detailed timeline, added annotations explaining the connections. Then I encrypted it all and uploaded it to a secure server Rebecca had provided. If anything happened to me, she'd still have access to everything. I was finishing the upload when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Brennan, this is Detective Holland. I need you to come to the station, now." "What's this about?" "Elena Kim filed a report. She's claiming you broke into her apartment, stole property, and threatened her life. There's a warrant for your arrest. You can come voluntarily, or I can send officers to pick you up. Your choice." My heart sank. "I'll come." "Good. 1 hour. Don't make me come looking for you." He hung up. I looked at the clock. 2:15 a.m. I had until 3:15 to get to the station. Or I had until 3:15 to disappear. I thought about running. Getting in my car and driving as far as I could before they caught up with me, but running would only make me look guilty. And it would leave Jake alone with no one to fight for him. I thought about going to the station and hoping I could explain my way out of this. But Elena had evidence. Manufactured evidence, but evidence nonetheless. And Biogen had resources to back her up. I thought about Dr. Kim's offer. $500,000 and a clean slate. All I had to do was sign. But I'd already sent the files to Rebecca. The story was going to come out whether I signed or not. And if I signed now, Biogen would know I'd betrayed them. They'd come after me anyway. I was trapped. Completely and utterly trapped. Unless I could turn the trap into a weapon. I grabbed my phone and called Dr. Kim's number. It rang twice before someone answered. "Mr. Brennan, have you made your decision?" "I have. I'll sign the contract. But I have conditions." "What conditions?" "I want to meet Elena, face to face. I want to hear from her directly that she's willing to let this go." "That's not possible." "Then I don't sign. And I go to the police station and tell them everything. About Biogen, about the wellness program, about your offer. Maybe they believe me, maybe they don't. But at least I tried." There was a pause. I could hear muffled conversation in the background. "Hold on," the voice said. I held. 2 minutes later, Dr. Kim came on the line. "You can meet Elena, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., the hospital cafeteria, public place, lots of witnesses. You talk, you hear her out, you sign the contract, everyone goes home happy. Deal. Don't try anything stupid, Mr. Brennan. We'll be watching." I wouldn't dream of it. I hung up. Then I texted Detective Holland. "I need to postpone. Family emergency. Can we make it noon instead?" His response came immediately. "Fine. But if you're not here by noon, I'm issuing a warrant." "I'll be there." I had 9 hours. 9 hours to meet Elena, record our conversation, get her to admit what she'd done, and deliver the evidence to Rebecca before Biogen could stop me. It was a terrible plan, probably suicidal, but it was the only plan I had. I spent the next few hours preparing. I borrowed a voice recorder from a neighbor, tested it 3 times to make sure it worked, and taped it to my chest under my shirt. I wrote a detailed letter explaining everything and mailed it to Rebecca's office as backup. I called Dennis and asked him to monitor Biogen's email traffic for any signs that they were planning something, and then I waited for morning to come. The hospital cafeteria at 9 a.m. was exactly as chaotic as I'd hoped. Early shift workers grabbing coffee and breakfast before rounds, visitors fueling up before seeing patients, medical students studying over toast and scrambled eggs, enough people that no one would notice one more conversation in a corner booth. I arrived at 8:50 and bought coffee I didn't drink. I sat at a table near the window with a clear view of the entrance and waited. Elena walked in at 8:58. She was wearing sunglasses and a scarf, like she was trying to disguise herself, but I recognized her immediately. She scanned the cafeteria, spotted me, and walked over with the careful precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. She sat down across from me without saying anything. "Take off the sunglasses," I said. "I want to see your face." She did. Her eyes were red, puffy. Either she'd been crying or she'd applied makeup to make it look like she had. "Paul," she said quietly, "I'm so sorry about all of this. I never wanted it to go this far." But it did. I know, and I take full responsibility. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. I let myself get pulled into something I didn't fully understand, but I swear to you, I never wanted Jake to get hurt. You poisoned him. I didn't. The food wasn't poisoned. The police confirmed that. But you contaminated it. You did something to it, something that triggered his collapse. I added a supplement, a strong one, too strong. I thought it would help him get through his shift. I didn't realize he was already taking other things. The combination was bad, or really bad. But it wasn't intentional. It was a mistake. I know, and I have to live with that. But Paul, you have to understand. I was being pressured. Biogen was threatening me. They said if I didn't get results, if I didn't keep Jake performing, they'd ruin me. They'd expose everything I'd done. They'd make sure I never worked again. I was scared. I made a bad decision, and Jake paid the price. She was good. Very good. Her voice had just the right amount of tremor. Her eyes had just the right amount of moisture. If I didn't know better, I'd believe her. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I want you to let this go. Sign the contract. Take the money. Move on. Jake is going to recover. The doctors say he's improving. In a few weeks, he'll be awake. In a few months, he'll be back to normal. You can have your son back, Paul. Isn't that what you want?" What I want is the truth. The truth is complicated. The truth is that a lot of people made a lot of mistakes, and now we all have to figure out how to move forward. The contract gives us that chance. And Biogen? What happens to them? They continue their work. They develop products that help people. They make money. That's what companies do. And the next test subject? The next Jake? There won't be a next Jake. The wellness program is over. Biogen learned their lesson. They'll be more careful going forward. More careful about not getting caught, you mean? Elena's expression hardened slightly. Just a flicker, but enough to show me what was underneath the performance. "Paul," she said, "you're not going to win this. You're not going to take down Biogen. You're not going to get justice or revenge or whatever it is you think you're fighting for. All you're going to do is destroy yourself and Jake in the process. Is that really what you want? What I want is for you to admit what you did. On the record, no more lies, no more manipulation, just the truth. I can't do that. Why not? Because if I do, Biogen will destroy me, and they'll destroy you too. They have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, investigators, people who specialize in making problems disappear. If you push this, you will lose, and you'll take Jake down with you. Maybe. But at least people will know what happened. At least the truth will be out there. The truth doesn't matter if no one cares, and trust me, Paul, no one cares. People take supplements every day. People push themselves too hard every day. People make bad choices every day. Jake's story isn't special. It's tragic, yes, but it's not special, and it's not worth sacrificing your entire life over. I reached under my shirt and pulled out the voice recorder. I set it on the table between us. "This conversation has been recorded," I said. "Everything you just said is on tape, and it's going to a journalist who's very interested in writing about Biogen's illegal experiments." Elena stared at the recorder. Then she started laughing. "You think that matters? You think anyone is going to care about a recording you made without my consent? Paul, that's not even admissible in court. And even if it was, all I said was that I made a mistake. That's not a confession. That's not proof of anything illegal. You've got nothing." I have the files from the wellness program. I have emails between you and Biogen. I have financial records showing the payments. I have testimony from hospital staff. I have everything I need to prove what you did. And I have a restraining order and a criminal complaint and a very convincing story about a grieving father who became obsessed with blaming his daughter-in-law for his son's overdose. Who do you think people are going to believe? She stood up. Sign the contract, Paul. It's the only smart move you have left. She walked away. I sat there, holding the voice recorder, realizing that she was right. The recording proved nothing. The files proved nothing. Without someone willing to testify, without someone willing to stand up and say, yes, this happened and it was wrong, I had nothing but circumstantial evidence and theories. I needed a witness, someone from inside Biogen, someone who could corroborate everything I'd found. I needed Dr. Rachel Kim. I left the cafeteria and went straight to my car. I pulled up the business card she'd given me and called the number. Mr. Brennan? She answered immediately. I understand you just had a conversation with Elena. You were watching. Of course. We needed to make sure you weren't planning anything reckless. I need to talk to you, in person, somewhere private. We already had that conversation. Nothing has changed? Everything has changed. Elena just admitted that Biogen pressured her to keep Jake in the program, that they threatened her, that they knew what she was doing and approved it. That makes Biogen liable for everything that happened. Elena didn't admit anything. She expressed regret about a mistake. That's not the same thing. But you know the truth. You know what really happened. You know Biogen is guilty. I know that Biogen operates in a legally gray area. I know that we conduct research that pushes boundaries. But I also know that we're very careful about documentation and liability. Everything we do is defensible in court. Even human experimentation without proper oversight? We had oversight, internal oversight, and we had consent forms, properly executed, legally binding consent forms. Jake signed one. He knew what he was getting into. He didn't know who was funding the study. He didn't need to know. That information wasn't material to his participation. You're splitting hairs. I'm being accurate, which is what lawyers do, Mr. Brennan. We find the spaces between what's illegal and what's just unethical, and we operate in those spaces very successfully. Help me, I said. Tell the truth about what Biogen did. Testify. Go on the record. You could end this. Why would I do that? I have a career, a reputation, a life I've worked very hard to build. Why would I throw all of that away to help you? Because it's the right thing to do, she laughed. The right thing. You sound like a child, Mr. Brennan. The world doesn't run on right and wrong. It runs on power and money and self-interest. And right now, my self-interest is aligned with Biogen's, not yours. What if I could offer you something better than money? There's nothing better than money. Immunity, protection, a deal with the authorities that keeps you out of prison when this all comes out. It's not going to come out. That's the point. You don't have enough to take us down. You have fragments, pieces, nothing that connects to anything concrete. Without a witness from inside Biogen, without someone who can testify to specific illegal actions, you have nothing. Then be that witness. No. Dr. Kim, this conversation is over, Mr. Brennan. Sign the contract or face the consequences. Those are your only options. She hung up. I sat in my car, staring at the phone, trying to figure out what to do next. I was out of witnesses. Out of evidence? Out of time. And then I realized something. I didn't need Dr. Kim to testify. I needed to make Biogen think someone was going to testify. I needed to create a threat big enough that they'd be forced to act, and when they acted, they'd expose themselves. I called Rebecca Tran. I need you to publish something, I said. Today. Right now. I'm still working on the story. I need more time to verify. There's no time. Biogen is moving to shut me down. If we wait, they'll succeed. I need you to publish what you have. Just the basics. Pharmaceutical company conducting illegal human experiments on hospital staff. Name Biogen. Name Elena. Make it public. That's not how journalism works, Paul. I can't just throw out unverified accusations. I need sources. I need documents. You have documents. I sent you everything. And I'm your source. I'm willing to go on the record. Use my name. Use my story. Just get it out there before Biogen buries it. This could ruin me if it's wrong. It's not wrong, and if you don't publish it, more people will get hurt. This isn't about journalism ethics. This is about stopping something evil before it spreads. She was quiet for a long moment. Give me 2 hours. I'll get something online. A preliminary story, just the framework. If it gets traction, I'll follow up with more detailed reporting. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This could blow up in both our faces. She hung up. I checked the time. 10:30. I had 90 minutes before Rebecca's story went live, and I had 90 minutes before I was supposed to be at the police station. I wasn't going to the police station, not yet. Not until I knew how Biogen was going to react to the story. I drove to a coffee shop near the hospital and waited. I ordered coffee I didn't drink and a sandwich I didn't eat, and watched the clock on my phone crawl toward noon. At 11:58, Rebecca's story went live. I refreshed her news site, and there it was, top of the page. Pharmaceutical giant Biogen under fire for alleged human experiments on hospital staff. The article was short, just 5 paragraphs, but it hit all the key points. Biogen had paid a consultant to test supplements on hospital workers. The tests had been conducted without proper oversight. One participant had been critically injured. The company was now attempting to cover up the incident. My name was in the 3rd paragraph. Paul Brennan, a facilities supervisor at St. Reich Catherine's Hospital, alleges that his son was one of the test subjects and that Biogen attempted to bribe him into silence. I waited for the fallout. It came faster than I expected. My phone started ringing at 12:05. Unknown numbers, all of them. I didn't answer. At 12:15, I got a text from Dr. Kim. You just made a very stupid mistake. At 12:20, Detective Holland called. I answered. Where are you, Mr. Brennan? Dealing with something urgent. I'll be there soon. You said noon. It's past noon. I know. I'm sorry. Give me another hour. 1 hour. If you're not here by 1:30, I'm issuing a warrant and sending officers to find you. Understood. I hung up. At 12:30, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I recognized, the hospital's main line. Mr. Brennan, this is Patricia. You need to see this. Get to the hospital, now. What's wrong? Just get here. 3rd floor, ICU. Hurry. She hung up before I could ask any more questions.